I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes this evening about the family tuition plan. Assumption High School and the 4 Catholic elementary schools in Scott County are moving into the 5th year now, upcoming 5th year of the family tuition plan. It was initially started as a project of the Scott County K-12 group and funded through the Assumption Foundation for K-12. They did a $5 million fund drive, and the strongest program that was funded through the K-12 drive, called Embracing Our Future, was the family tuition plan. In its first year, the family tuition plan helped about 310 students to the tune of $410,000, and in its 4th year now, we are helping 515 students for a total of $784,000. So the program just keeps growing every year, as does the enrollment in Scott County Catholic schools, which proves it's a very good thing. And this is a handout that you can have that talks about the number of families in each parish that are being assisted through the program. How many are in elementary school, how many are in high school, and the total number, the 515. We're in the 3rd year of a law that was passed by the state of Iowa that we actually advocated for very hard in 2004, and it actually passed both the House and the Senate by strong majority and was vetoed by the then governor in 2006, or in 2004, and then in 2006 it passed both houses again and was signed into law. What this allows is for families to contribute to a school tuition organization. There are 11 of them in Iowa, and we have one of our own right here in Scott County called the Mississippi Valley School Tuition Organization, or they call it Mississippi Valley STO. It allows people to donate an amount of money to our STO, and they get a 65% direct tax credit right off of their Iowa taxes. That means that, say that you wanted to give $1,000 to the Mississippi Valley STO, you would get $650 directly off of your Iowa tax bill. And then you would get to deduct your $1,000 gift off of your federal taxes. So if you're in a 30% bracket, you get to take $300 off of your federal taxes. It's the most tax-efficient gift that you can probably do in the state of Iowa, and we're only the 5th state in the country to have a school tuition bill pass through the legislature. The statewide cap started at $2.5 million. The 2nd year it went to $5 million. The 3rd year it went to $7.5 million. That's where we are right now, and that is now providing about 3/4 of the funding for the family tuition plan. So we say we have a pretty permanent funding stream. We're very excited about that. This magazine is called School Choice Advocate, and it's a publication of the Milton Friedman Foundation. Milton Friedman was a Nobel laureate economist, and one of his key loves, I guess, was school choice. So his foundation publishes this magazine, and we were actually a story in the magazine right after the bill passed through the Iowa legislature. This is me over here. Look, I'm 1 page off of being the centerfold, but it's the closest I've ever gotten. Anyway, this is me over here, and this is a 2-page story that talks about how the Scott County K-12 Foundation actually led the charge in Des Moines to make that bill get through the legislature. So you're welcome to have a copy of that. We have lots of them. They gave us 2,000 extra copies. Anyway, to explain how the family tuition plan works. The family tuition plan, you know, for many years in Scott County, Assumption would look at a family and say they have 1 child at Assumption. Well, how much do we think they can afford to pay? And then if you had children in grade school, the grade school would say, well, they've got 2 children at St. Paul's. How much do we think they can afford to pay? And we would pretend, at Assumption, we'd pretend like you didn't have children in grade school, and at St. Paul's, they'd pretend like you didn't have children in high school. What the family tuition plan allowed everybody in Scott County to do, all the schools, was to look at a family as a family and say, look, they've got 1 child at Assumption, and they've got 2 child at All Saints Catholic. So their total tuition bill is this. How much can a family of that size afford? And the other thing that all the schools did was they said, how much should we budget this year for tuition assistance? At Assumption, that number was $40,000. So it wasn't a matter of seeing how many people we could get to come forward so we could get rid of $40,000. We knew in our hearts that we had much more tuition assistance need than $40,000 worth. So what we would do is say, okay, if you want to apply for assistance, apply, and then we'd say, okay, well, these 8 are making this amount. These 6 are making this amount, and then we would cut it off and we'd say, okay, well, let's give them 900, let's give them 800, let's give them 700, and then we'd say, what did all that add up to? ooh, 43,000. Okay, give them $100 left. Give them $100 left. It was kind of an ostrich's approach, because instead of meeting the need of the families, we were just picking an arbitrary number that we thought we could afford to do. And in the end, we weren't welcoming to as many families as we really wanted to be. We wanted to make it possible for every family to attend both Catholic elementary and high school. So when we did the family tuition plan, and the Assumption Foundation stepped forward in a big way, and they said, let's do this. Let's say for 5 years, we're not going to say there's $40,000. We're going to say, what would a reasonable plan look like? What's fair? What could a family afford? And when we know what we believe a family can afford, then however much need we have, we're going to find it all. We're going to meet all the need. We're going to go out and, gnaw on people's ankles until we get as much money as we need to fund all the need. Well, they did a great job of gnawing on ankles, and in the end, we got this bill passed through the Iowa legislature, which now makes that pretty permanent funding, and it has really turned around the enrollment in the Catholic schools. As a matter of fact, this year, K-12, we're up 92 students, which is a pretty big turnaround for us. It's the largest increase in enrollment we've had in the last 20 years. I'll give you an idea of what the family tuition plan does for a family. Maybe I'll move this a little closer to you, I don't know. Okay, this is a family of 5. They have 5 children, and the children are age 5, 3, and 1. So they're trying to decide where they should send their children to school. And they think they may want to send them to John F. Kennedy. So tuition is about, let's say, $2,000, $2,100 for one child at John F. Kennedy, and this 5-year-old is ready to start kindergarten. So they think, maybe we could send them, but you know what? We think we could afford to send one child to John F. Kennedy, but we don't know when when this one's in 2nd grade, this one will be in kindergarten. Could we afford to send 2? And even if we could afford to send 2, could we really ever afford to send 3? Because that's going to be way too much. And so what we do is we encourage people, even though you think you can afford your tuition this year, if you'd like to know what your tuition threshold is, then send in an application. You've seen the application. Send in an application like this, and up at the top, just put "Find My Threshold." Even if you think you're okay right now, find my threshold. There's no harm done with that, and we'll let you know. So what it will tell you is how much the family tuition plan believes you can afford to pay an annual tuition. This family is a family of 5 with income of around $70,000. And what the family tuition plan says when they look at them, that's line 26, income on your Iowa return, is it says they can afford about $3,100 in tuition. This is their threshold. Okay, as long as they're below the threshold, they pay the tuition. When they get above the threshold, the family tuition plan pays the difference. So they're always paying $3,100, $3,100, and here's when they get the 3rd one in school. Uh-oh, now it's $4,650. They're paying $3,100, and the other $1,550 is paid by the family tuition plan. And the family tuition plan, which is managed by the Assumption Foundation, they're sending checks to John F. Kennedy and to All Saints and to Assumption and to St. Paul's and to Our Lady of Lourdes. And for one family, if you have one child at Assumption and one child at Our Lady of Lourdes, they're sending a check to Our Lady of Lourdes and they're sending a check to Assumption. They're prorating the tuition assistance. Now, just like some people will not be sure whether they can afford to send their children to elementary school, here's what happens when the same family, years go by, now we're at 2017, 18, 19, 20, and here they've got 2 children at Assumption, 1 at JFK. Here's when they've got 3 at Assumption. Oh, no, 2 at Assumption, 1 at JFK. Tuition is $9,900. So they'll say, you know what, even if I thought I could afford somehow to have the 3 of them at JFK, I could never afford to have 2 at Assumption and 1 at JFK. But remember, here's what the family tuition plan says. They're still paying $3,100. So in fact, they can. This is when it comes down. Now they've got 1 out of high school. They've got 1 at Assumption, 1 at JFK. Now they've just got 1 at Assumption, and then they're done. Remember, this family is a family of 5, and they're making about $70,000. This threshold varies based on the size of your family, the amount of your income, and your assistance varies based on the amount of your tuition assistance. Any questions about that? This, I think, is kind of a worthwhile, this was a bulletin stuffer maybe a year ago, but it gives 6 examples of families that have children in Catholic school, and it says John and Mary have somebody here and there and there, and it talks about their income, talks about their family size, and it gives some examples of what they might qualify for on tuition assistance. The great thing about the family tuition plan and the way it's helping our enrollment is even families who thought they could afford elementary school and couldn't afford high school, they say, you know what? We probably better not send our kids to Catholic elementary school because we can't afford Catholic high school. And so they opt out of the whole thing. Now that they believe they can afford Catholic high school, they'll do Catholic grade school too. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. Do you have any questions?